Hey, somebody needs to vote. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to The Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today and with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or a coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. The Professional Noticer is sponsored this week by our friends at Tucker ATV. You know, the variety that they show of power sport products there on site at Tucker ATV is just incredible. Hustler turf equipment, the entire line of Echo power tools, and of course, Tucker ATV carries every make and model of Polaris ATVs. They have the big Polaris side-by-sides, the even bigger Ranger Cruise, and you have to see the showroom with the taxidermy, antique displays, and an indoor porch with its own porch swing. Indoors! With comfortable chairs and television and free coffee. So stop in and meet Shannon and Lisa Tucker. They treat customers like family, which is why folks from 14 states have done business with Tucker ATV. Highway 43 North in Jackson, Alabama, Tucker ATV, the small town business with the national reputation. Observations and answers. That's what we do here on The Professional Noticer. And today, we're doing another episode in our parenting series. This is episode 2. We throw these things in intermittently, and so if you're keeping track, it's episode 2. We ask the question, what is parenting? Is it love, control, peace and quiet, training, survival, protection, perfection? Is there a way to know if you're on track? Are you parenting correctly and effectively? Or is parenting just a shot in the dark? Is it a best guess? There must be answers, but they sure seem to be rare and hard to find. And of course, we all concern ourselves with the question, how will I be remembered as a parent? And the answer to that question, of course, is completely in our own hands. You know, I'm a dad. And you and I are probably a lot alike. I haven't earned a PhD in parenting, but for 20 or so years, I was able to practice the parenting thing every single day. So now, perhaps I can provide some value for you as a mom or a dad or a grandparent or as an uncle or an aunt or the friend of someone who is a mom or dad. If you're a parent or about to be, then I think you'll want to keep listening because you and I are about to notice some things together. We're going to get some answers, and these will be answers to some very important questions. During this series, we'll clearly title these episodes as they are slipped into our regular lineup. So here is my overarching parenting principle. We are not trying to raise great kids. We're raising kids who become great adults. When Polly and I had our first child, Austin, 25 years ago, I was terrified. I didn't feel at all prepared to guide a life. And looking around at other parents and the lives they were guiding, the results seemed all over the map. In fact, it didn't seem to matter what books those parents read or what TV shows they watched. I mean, I looked and it seemed like whether, no matter what race, whether somebody was a Christian or atheist or Jewish or you know, whatever, I couldn't find any common denominator. In fact, it seemed more common to me that the family had 3 kids and 2 of them were rocket scientists and one of them was in prison. You know, I just like, how do you do this? And they're raised the same way. They're sitting at the same dinner table growing up. But years ago, one of the things that I learned to do with teams and businesses was to devise processes or methods according to the results they wanted to get. And if we were going to choose the results we were after, then why not determine first what was possible? I equate that with the business book Good to Great, which I talk about a fair amount. I think it's a great book, but I also believe, that while everybody else is trying to go good to great, you and I ought to go great to best. So exactly what was the best? I mean, if we were gonna take a concept to determine where we were going, why not choose the best? So what was the best result in parenting? Historians and scholars point to King Solomon. Now, they don't say he's the best anybody turned out. I'm saying that because historians and scholars say that he was the wisest and wealthiest human being of all time. And so if he was the wisest and wealthiest human being of all time, that's obviously the best a human being has turned out. So curiously, because Solomon was a king, everything he wrote has been preserved and is still available to read. That's just the way it is with kings. They keep everything they say, somebody writes it down. Everything they write, somebody keeps it. If, King Henry VIII used a spoon, you can bet it's in a museum somewhere. And somebody's going, the king ate with that. And so with Solomon, everything that he wrote is still available to read. And I've read everything I could get my hands on. I have pored over this material for years. And amazingly, from the wisest and wealthiest person in history, there are specific instructions about teaching a child financial responsibility, leadership skills, integrity, work ethic, and many other things. So quite often now, I share the answers I found with other parents. And these amazing principles are based on results that most agree were the best ever attained. So all we have to do, I feel like, is to understand and apply the wisdom of these principles that created the best result the world has ever known. We're going to continue this series today with an explanation of something that King Solomon wrote that I think has been misunderstood through the years. Now, I will admit, as many times as I have read the stuff that King Solomon wrote, I haven't always understood it. And there's some of them that I agreed with and some of them I disagreed with. But as I continued to read these things and just like prayed for understanding, sometimes even after years, I would gather a little line of thought and come to understand what he wrote in a way that I had not before. And that's certainly true with this one today. And the best way to tell you what this one is to tell you the way it has been misunderstood. You would not believe, and this is like a famous one. This is one that is like just in the vernacular. And so I have had quite a few parents throw this one up to me as an example of something King Solomon was wrong about. And it's very curious because I've had parents who are experiencing like a situation with an adult child. And the parent say, that thing that King Solomon wrote that said, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is grown, he will not depart from that. And they'll say, we did that, and now look. But as I've gotten into the weeds on that, I found a basic misunderstanding that parents had over what Solomon wrote that I think is crucial to us as we're raising our children. King Solomon did not write, make a child do what you want him to do while he is young, and when he is grown, he will not depart from it. That isn't what the man wrote. He wrote, train up a child in the way he should go. And when he is grown, he will not depart from it. Now, there's a big difference in the disciplinarian who makes a child do what he wants him to do and enforces that rule. And, because I said so, and because I'm your dad, because I'm your mom, because I'm an adult. And so there is a, here I'm just like riffing to the side here for a second, but that's another thing that I hear, and I know I've already mentioned this, but another thing that I hear from parents who are having trouble is I'll say, what is your parenting strategy? And over again, I hear people say, we're raising great kids. We're determined to raise great kids. We said if we have kids, if we're privileged enough to have kids, we're gonna make them our priority, and we're determined to raise great kids. We think about them, we pray for them, and so we're determined to raise great kids. And I'm not as snippy about this as I'm going to make it sound right now, but I want to say, oh, you want to raise great kids? Well, there's your problem. Because in reality, you don't really want to raise great kids. You want to raise kids who become great adults. See, Solomon wrote, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's grown, he will not depart from it. He didn't write, make a child do what you think he should do and what you want him to do, and then when he's grown, he'll not depart from it. See, here's the thing where that fools people. And I'll back up and say, we're not trying to raise great kids. We're trying to raise kids who become great adults. How many times have you seen great kids that ended up as crazy adults or suspect adults? And how many times have you seen some young adult get into major trouble and go, what happened? She was such a great kid. What happened to them? They were such great kids. Well, they were great kids because that was the parents' focus, raising a great kid. And it's good to remember that we can make them be great kids. We can make them be great kids because we're bigger than they are and we have all the money. We can make them be great kids, but when they're grown, when they're away from us, it's a different thing. And consider the difference in making a child do what you want them to do and then training up a child. When you make a child do what you think they should do, and then they turn 18 or 21 or whatever and get away from you, at that point, that child is usually determined to test the validity of everything they have been told to do growing up. And now they're doing it without a net. But when you train up a child in the way he should go, which requires long conversations about why we believe what we believe and how we used to believe this, but then Uncle Kevin said this and I thought about it and it made sense, and this is why I believe what I believe, and one day, at some point you will have to determine what you believe. I can't impart a belief in you. I can only help you experience the knowledge of it and help you hopefully see the wisdom of it. But so that's training up a child in the way it should go. And so when we train up a child in the way it should go, by the time they turn 18 or 21, they've generally made a lot of the big decisions that we want them to make. And they are equipped, when they get away from us, now they're equipped to handle the questions that are knocking the legs out from under their peers. And so there is a difference in making a child do what we want them to do. I mean, you can't tell a child, you are an Alabama fan. You are an Alabama fan. Your granddad was an Alabama fan. Your mama was an Alabama fan. You are an Alabama fan. I mean, sure, we want them to be Alabama fans, don't we? We want them all to be Alabama fans. But at some point, they're going to decide. They're going to have to decide on their own. And so whether it's being a Christian or whatever political party or an Alabama fan, we just want to have long conversations with them because we're training up our children in the way they should go, not making them be that. So if you remember our last time, we talked about disciplining a child while they are young, or we will ruin their life. That's what King Solomon wrote. Discipline a child while he is young, otherwise you'll ruin his life. And so disciplining the child and how we talked about, and if you haven't seen this, go back and watch it, we talked about how the harsher discipline should come early, and then you should be able to back off and let go as that child is getting older. And that's where some specific training goes, because now we're setting up conversations with our children, because when they're older is when we really want them to listen to us. But if we're increasing the discipline and increasing the hammering and increasing the you will do this and because I said so and because I'm your dad, I mean, it does away with a lot of opportunities for conversations because they just don't want to hear it. They don't want to listen. And when we say something to a child like, as long as you live in my house, you would, I mean, if the kid has a brain, he's going to nod and smile. Okay. But inside, this kid's saying, I'm not always going to be in your house. And so when that child gets away and begins to explore the validity of everything he taught, even the parent runs up against a tough time because, the parent may have said, as long as you live in my house, you will not be jumping off cliffs. And so, but no explanation, just punishment if they do, and more arguing and more yelling and so, but then when the child gets to be an adult and starts jumping off cliffs, and we say something, then they go, I'm not in your house anymore. And you're kind of thinking, that isn't the result I was looking for. I wasn't wanting them to jump off cliffs forever. I wouldn't want them to do that forever because it's dangerous. And so we have to figure out ways to talk to our children. Now before we go, I'm going to give you a great conversation to have. You have to determine when it's the right time for your child. For some children, it can be as young as 11. For most, I think 12 or 13 is good, but for some, even 14 or 15, it can work. But the idea is to know what the child wants. Now, the next time we talk, we're going to talk about how people make decisions to stay the same or to change. And this is based on a King Solomon statement that we'll tell you then. But to know what a child really wants allows you to have a disciplinary process that is mild and really works well because it's in line with what the child wants to do, wants to end up, how they want to end up. And so the conversation is simple. Now, I will go into more detail on this with the next episode that we do on parenting. But the idea is to sit down and dial in to what this child really wants. You know, I love you and I want the best for you. And I'm aware that I'm human and I don't necessarily always know the very best, but I'm going to stay on it and figure it. And you and I are going to talk. And at some point, you know, if you disagree with something that I'm deciding, I don't mind you telling me. Now, we're not going to yell about it or pout or, you know, give each other the silent treatment. We're going to talk about it. And because we want the best, and the best will be one thing, we're going to talk about it until I agree with you or you agree with me, because we're wanting the best and we should be able to find that. And so one of the things that I want to do as we gear toward this, your teenage years or your young adult years, I want to find out, you know, you're 12 years old now. I want to find out how I can help you in this phase of your life when you're getting ready for adulthood. I can't impose my beliefs on you. I can't tell you you're going to be an Alabama fan. I mean, at some point, you'll have to discover for yourself that if you're, you know, for Auburn, you're going to hell. But I want to find out what you really want. And I want to help you get that. So some of the basics, let's just dial into this. Where do you want to live? Well, you're 12. I know you probably can't imagine being my age, but can you imagine being 25? Do you ever think about when you're like a young adult? Do you ever think about that? I do. Okay, well, so can you imagine being 25 and living on your own? And I can. Okay, so let's do when you're 25, let's write a script for your life, like right now. Now, you can we can change the script tomorrow, all right? But and it will probably change over the years. But to give us a baseline on what we're after, where is it? Let's start with, where do you want to live? If you could wave a magic wand and do all this and create this life for yourself. We're going to wave a magic wand and we're going to create this vision for your life. So where do you want to live? If you can live anywhere you want to live, where you want to live. And as this is getting started, they'll probably say, well, I don't know what you mean. Okay, well, do you want to live on the water, in the mountains, in a city, in the suburbs, a farming area? Now, when I asked Austin this, he said, oh, on the water. I said, okay, now we're dialing in, right? So I said, okay, on the water. Salt water or fresh water? He said, salt water. Okay, so salt water. You want to live on the beach, on the lagoon, in the bay, in the bayous? And he said, the lagoon, which there's a lagoon right here in Gulf Shores, Orange Beach area. And I said, on the lagoon, south side or north side? He said, north side. Really? That's interesting. Why the north side? He said, well, the north side has all the sand and the beachy stuff, but it also has woods. It has the pine woods. And so you get kind of the beach and the forest right there. I said, oh, okay. I never thought of that. That's very cool. Okay. So what kind of place you want to live in? like a house, a cottage, a condo, a tent, a camper, mobile home. And so we will detail this on the next episode. I'll take you through the entire conversation we had. But this is how detailed we're getting. And then when we get to the end of that point, and I'll detail it next episode, but when we get to the end of it, if he'd said something like, I want to live on a spaceship on the north side of the lagoon, I'd have said, now let's think about that. Is that really, is that something that, I'm going to gently try to steer that away from something ridiculous. Okay. But other than that, it's his thoughts. And so when we get to the end of it, I'm going to say, you know what? This is good. I like this. I can get on board with this. And so I'm going to show you in our next episode, our next parenting episode, how to get on board with your child as their coach and have them very happy about it and listening carefully to you. All right? I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing that tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Photo enlargements for the cast and crew provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by Tattoo for You, the original flesh-colored tattoo company. Have you heard of the new fad sweeping the nation? It's changing the way America looks at itself. Introducing flesh-colored tattoos. They're now being administered to people who'd love to have an entire arm or leg inked, but fear family rejection or even loss of employment. Skin color is perfectly matched. Tattoo for You maintains a database of more than 200 skin color shades, from darkest black to albino white. Yes, the original flesh-colored tattoo company has something for everyone. Would you like a barbed wire neck tattoo? Perhaps you're partial to a full-face dragon. Maybe a dragon coming out of your ears. Allow the original flesh-colored tattoo company to tackle the task. The inking process hasn't changed. You'll still feel the painful insertion of automatic needles. It's just that once the scabs heal, no one will see the final product. So accept no substitutes. Don't purchase a knockoff. Get the original from the company that started it all. Come on. You've always wanted a tattoo. Now you can have one and nobody will ever know. We are Tattoo for You, the original flesh-colored tattoo company.